morning. I try every day to at least open up the Tanya. I have the app on my phone. I've been doing this for years. And I found it interesting that today, if you look at the Tanya, it discusses the issue of studying secular studies, what he calls the wisdom of the nations of the world. He says it's a sin of bittul Torah, of wasting time that could be studying Torah, unless it's directly connected to making a living so that one can continue to serve God and learn Torah. Obviously, there are many different opinions about this, but he said that's why Maimonides and Nachmanides and so forth studied secular studies, was in order to make a living so that they could sublimate that into the service of God. I myself, I went to Touro College, and I remember Rabbi Dr. Lander, Zechron Levrocha, I would say Zecher Tzaddik Levrocha, you felt, when you were around him, you felt the same type of aura and presence and Kedusha that you felt when you were like by the Baruch Moshe. You were by a chasna from an einikel of his, which I was by once. It was the same feeling. Obviously, in Gashmias, materialistically, it was different, somewhat. I mean, they're both Orthodox Jewish weddings, but obviously there was difference in some of the, excuse me, I'm not feeling well, but you felt a spirit of royalty by Dr. Lander, Bernie Lander. And just being in his presence was always that feeling. And he said, what's the difference between Yeshiva University and Touro College? He said in Yeshiva University they talk of Torah Umada. That's studying the sciences of the world, knowledge, was a pursuit for its own sake. And Dr. Lander, Zechron Levrocha, said, here at Touro College, it's Torah Uparnasa. The main thing is Torah. But we got to make a living so we can learn Torah, and so everything that we learned, we didn't have any classes in women's studies. Ways. We had a class in history, world history, a class in Jewish history, we had classes in literature. And these things can be useful depending on what kind of job you want to get. But to study them for their own sake goes against what many would consider a Torah hashkafa, a Torah ideology. That they're tools to, like a shovel to dig with. Specifically, the Torah should not be used like that, but the secular studies, the Tanya is saying, should be used like that. But otherwise, it's a waste of time, and this connects to what we were saying yesterday from the Kalavar Rebbe of the waste of time factor. The fact of the matter is, though, if you are in a Hasidic community, you don't really need that much English to make a living inside the community. If you want to leave the community, then you need more English, but you can make a decent living within the community and support yourself with just math, and that's the main focus. I taught English in Satmar, which is the most cloistered school. Although not the school with the least amount of English, and it's not the most cloistered school either. But I'm saying of the big schools, there are smaller schools that are perhaps more cloistered. Lubavitch, though, is rather modern, but they have schools where no secular studies are taught. And so there are different approaches in different schools. I need to get around this truck. once I can see around the bend. So essentially, that would be the main thing I want to bring out here, and it seems that according to the Tanya, that would be why, that's his explanation for why Maimonides engaged, I can't see enough, in secular studies. And historically we can bear that out to be true, because he really didn't start studying secular studies until he was an adult, until what happened was that his brother, who was a businessman who supported him, passed away, and so that's why he started to engage in secular studies. And until then, his life was totally dedicated to Torah study, and the Torah study gave him the tools that he needed to be the greatest physician of his era. And so too, even in our generation, and not our generation, but I mean, I know people who saw the Chazon Ish in person, and the Chazon Ish, he was, Reb Fishel Farkash from Monroe. He said when he was a boy in Eretz Yisrael, living in Bnei Brak, he saw the Chazon Ish, and the Chazon Ish was able to correct doctors and give them advice on brain surgery and things like that. Rav Gustman Zechron Avracha was able to give advice on brain surgery while his brain was being operated on. This is the ways of our Gedolei Yisrael. And really, if someone dedicates themselves to Torah study, anyone could reach these levels. Rabbi Akiva didn't know Aleph Beis till he was the age when the Rambam started studying secular studies. So, we should be aware of these things. Again, like I pointed out, you look at a newspaper, the Blad, the Eid. These people are worldly. They know about, what's going on in the world. They know about history and science and current events and so forth. They're writing in Yiddish. It's not a totally cloistered community the way some people would think. But they do want to protect the children. The children, don't really get involved in these things. The children are supposed to be involved in Torah study, and then when they get older, they can start studying secular studies. But they do. The Satmar certainly did want all the kids to know basic English and math. He specifically said, anyone who doesn't want to have English can send their kids to a different school. He knew that in America, that it was important as a matter of religious focus to have English and math, and they do. Now, whether or not the kids pay attention, that's a different issue. But maybe the kids, they're tired after a whole day or whatever. But they get more than enough of what is required, and the proof is in the pudding. The people, there are people from those communities who even go on to college and so forth, if that's what they want to do. The more common is not to go to college, but to go into business and make more money. You can make more money sometimes as a plumber or an electrician than you can as a doctor. And they learn these things and willing to get their hands dirty, some of these guys. And more power to them, like Rabbi Weinberger, Zolga Sunstein, he told us that his father, Zolga Sunstein, very choshev Yid, he said, by his bar mitzvah, he made a siyum on Bava Kama, Bava Mitzvah, Bava Basra. and Rabbi Weinberger said, maybe I was going a little too fast on that hill. I gotta get to work. He said, I didn't know you were so into learning. He said, well, in Hungary in those days, either you learned or you went to work. So I wanted to learn. You know. So you're 11 years old, you go to work already. Excuse me. So I just found it interesting that's in today's Tanya and the chitas that the Lubavitchers learn, that the Rayatz was miyaseh this Seder Limud, and Rayatz was a big tzaddik, you know. Satmarov very rarely went to funerals, and he generally would not go into cemeteries, but he went to the Levai of the Rayatz, and he didn't go into the cemetery, but he stayed in the car outside the cemetery to show cover to the Rayatz. So it's just because his Adam Kali gemacht the ganze Zach doesn't mean, you know, he didn't see it as a pikadon the way that the Berach Moshe saw it as a pikadon from his uncle. He saw it as something he could do what he wanted with, and that's why they went the way they went. You know, and the Rebbitzin wanted Rav Ferrari. You know, Hey Tavis just passed. You know. They talk about Samar making Chil Hashem going Tarkos, and they had a heter from Besdin whenever they went Tarkos, and who gave the heter for them to go Tarkos for Hey Tavis? So I don't care that they did it. It's just that they have this holier than thou attitude. They think they're better than everybody else. You know, they think they're on a different madrega than all other Jews. So it's true. It's not that's their theology. You know, they said that, but based on something from Moral and Yehuda Levi, I'm not going to mention what they said. It's not kedai, but it's disgusting. Excuse me. Well, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well. It's good. I should make shorter videos anyway. This video is already too long. And they do good work. I don't forgive them, you know, to be the only Orthodox shul in Idaho or in Montana. That's a gewaltige Sache. But to be Chveis, you know, to go into a frum neighborhood and try to take over and to steal the shul away from a Choshev Yid like with Moshe Frank, who's a Talmud Chacham, and they steal his shul. Those are the types of things they do. And then the mikveh there in Ellenville, they had a chazaka. Men could use the mikveh. Gerim could go to the mikveh there. And then this new clown that they have there, he doesn't let men use the mikveh. He doesn't let Gerim use the mikveh. He doesn't. It's what is it? What right does he have to trample on the status quo that's gone on for 90 years? This is a disgusting situation. I'm sorry. And it's not the only place that they tried it. In Prague, well, the Rabbanut tried the same thing, and the Rabbanut somewhat was matzliach now, although maybe we'll go back. I don't need to talk about all this. Well, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. Sorry I'm not feeling well. Talk later. Be well.